Hello everybody, welcome back to another video for the day. Now we're going back into r/Tales of Neckbeard because you guys seem to absolutely love the storytime videos, and if you want to show your support, be sure to power slam the like button to show your support and keep me going. Alrighty, let's get right into this, let's go. Our first story comes to us from username Calamise21. Neckbeard gets angry with me for getting a girl's number. To start off, I need to apologize because this is kinda long. This story happened about 2 years ago at my place of employment. I won't say the name of the company I worked for, but our job was to basically handle any service issues or whatever clients who hired us. The people in the story will obviously have their names changed. I first met Greaseball when he was assigned to my team. No one on our team was particularly thrilled about this because he already had a reputation during this time in training. He pretty much fit the stereotypical neckbeard, overweight, scraggly beard that was almost on his neck, which was probably for the best since he shaved, he looked like a giant man baby. And he always had some anime shirt on. He didn't always smell, but when he did, it was horrible, like I had to cover my nose and breathe through my mouth. Unfortunately, Greaseball's desk was right next to mine. He was always bringing in these Gundam toys and putting them on his desk. He was also one of those guys who hated it when you called them toys. He'd freak out and say that they aren't toys, they're models. To make matters worse for me, I was team captain, which is basically the second in command of the team, which meant whenever my boss, the team leader, wasn't around, any issues that other team members had would be dealt with by me. And since Greaseball couldn't get along with anyone else on the team, this would lead to complaints and sometimes straight up yelling matches, which myself or the team lead would have to stop. So this all started during one of our bi-weekly meetings. The company I worked for at the time was international, so there was always some small rule change or update in policy that required us to do an hour-long meeting to go over what was changing. We'd go into small groups, and at designated times, we'd sit down with a trainer and discuss the changes. I had already finished my work and asked my boss if I could head to the meeting a little early, which he had no problem with. I ended up being the first one there, so I got on my phone and just hung out for a bit. Before long, people started filling in and taking their seats. This is where Katie comes in. I had never really talked to her before, but I had seen her around. She was really short with blonde hair and big brown eyes, incredibly attractive and incredibly friendly to just about everyone. She comes in and sits 2 seats to my left, leaving 1 seat between us. We start chatting a little bit, nothing flirty at the point, just your basic hi, how you doing type of stuff. This is when Greaseball comes stumbling through the door. At this point, there are no seats left besides the one between me and Katie. Katie, being the friendly person that she is, waves Greaseball over and says, "I saved you a seat right here." Greaseball looked at her, and the moment I saw the look on his face, I knew I was in for a show. So Greaseball comes rushing over to sit down. As he's sitting, Katie mentions that she likes the shirt he's wearing, some anime graphic shirt. Greaseball thanks her before glancing over at me. I didn't make eye contact or anything, I just gave a quick, "What's up?" and focused in on the trainer, who was starting her presentation. We actually made pretty good time because we got through the meeting 10 minutes ahead of schedule, and because of this, we got to do whatever for 10 minutes. I pulled my phone back out and started looking through my newsfeed. It's at this moment when Greaseball starts bombarding Katie with questions. He asked her if she had ever watched the anime that was on his shirt, and she politely said no, and that she wasn't into anime. I had never felt so much cringe in my life. I turned on my music and put my earbuds in to try and drown out the sounds of Greaseball. Katie leans over and sees me listening to music. She jumped and asked what I was listening to. I offered her one of my earbuds. I kinda knew this was an excuse to get away from Greaseball, so I rolled with it. Katie asked if Greaseball would switch with her seats, and Greaseball glared at me before looking back at her and grumbling as he stood up and swapped seats with her. Greaseball looked off and started talking to someone a few rows ahead of him while Katie and I listened to music. She made sure she wasn't listening before she thanked me for helping her get out of Greaseball's grasp. We talked for the rest of the time, and we actually hit it off, and she started getting flirty and I flirted back. Greaseball noticed this, and it was clear he was furious about it. At the end of the meeting, she gave me her number and I gave her mine. I left to go back to my team, and Greaseball was right on my tail. He grabbed my shoulder to stop me and demanded to know what I was doing. I told him I didn't know what he was talking about. He then starts to go on a rant about how he and her were talking, and I had no right to interrupt that. I laughed it off and told him to get back to work. For the rest of my time working for that company, Greaseball had a personal grudge against me. It only got worse after Katie and I actually started dating, and even to this day, long after I quit, my friends who still work there said he still grumbles about it to anyone who will listen. That guy's just a sour lemon, don't need to live with him. Hope you two are doing well, and Godspeed to you. Our next story comes to us from username OgCannoli36. Went to school with a neckbeard. Going through this subreddit and reading all of these stories reminded me of a kid I went to school with for basically my entire life. I'm going to refer to him as Mort because that's an actual nickname kids gave him. It's nowhere close to his actual name, so hopefully this will keep his identity safe. Mort was a typical neckbeard, short, plump, greasy brown hair, and a baby face covered in acne. I recall seeing Mort around since elementary school, but I never really truly interacted with him until 6th grade orientation. I was a shy and socially awkward kid, so I didn't have many friends. Eventually, Mort and I bumped into each other, and we struck a conversation. This was a long time ago, so I don't remember most of the details, but I do remember that he seemed to have this strange obsession with Doctor Who. I've seen a few episodes of Doctor Who when I was really young, but I never really got into it. So I was mostly uninterested in his constant talk of Doctor Who. Maybe I'm just rude, and it's not a bad thing to really enjoy a TV show, I guess. I really just had no interest in hearing about Doctor Who. Again, like I said before, I was extremely shy, so I didn't have the nerves to speak up and ask if we could change the subject. So for most of middle school orientation, I just sat nodding my head and saying, as he talked and talked about Doctor Who. This experience wasn't that bad, I'll admit, but it still felt very neckbeardy to me. During my middle school years, I didn't interact with Mort too much. I do remember one of my friends kind of hung out with him and bullied him, sorta. It's kinda weird. He'd hung out with Mort, but he never seemed to like him at all. I'm no longer friends with this guy. Nowadays, he's mostly just a frat boy douche. Looking back at it, I probably should have stood up for Mort, but I was already being bullied so much in middle school, and I didn't want to make any new enemies or draw attention to myself. I never really understood why people would bully Mort, but I think that's because I never spent any extensive time with him. But when we entered high school, I discovered why he's so disliked. In high school, I had even less friends than in middle school, so during lunch periods, I just kinda zipped about trying to find someone I know tolerates me. One of the people I frequently saw was an old friend, we'll call him M. M and I used to be best friends in elementary school, but we drifted after because we just had different interests. He was still a nice guy though, and I don't think he minded me hanging out with him. However, M is a very well-liked guy. I'd go as far to say he was friends with everyone, and yes, that includes Mort. Most times I hung out with him, he would spend lunch with Mort. I'm not sure why, but to each their own, I guess. I don't remember any of these things we talk about, but I do remember that whenever I opened my mouth to say anything, Mort would usually respond in a condescending tone telling me how I'm wrong or I'm an idiot. Sometimes we'd watch YouTube poops on our phones. One time we were watching videos on Mort's phone and I couldn't see well, so I moved behind his shoulder. Without warning, Mort elbowed me in the face and yelled at me for looming over his shoulder and proceeded to say some pretty hurtful things. I don't remember how I reacted, but looking back, I probably held back tears. I'm a sensitive little barge. After that, I never hung around Mort again. I was genuinely terrified of him. However, I can't help it if I end up being in the same class as him, which I was. I shared a 10th grade biology class with him. I don't remember talking to him that much, but I do remember one time somehow, I do not for my life for me remember how, the conversation in class somehow got to the topic of Japan. I remember out of absolutely nowhere, Mort stood up, said something in Japanese, and then bowed to the teacher. That's a memory I like to suppress. I even remember one girl in class. Her eyes were wide open and was staring at Mort as if he was some lunatic, which he kinda was. Those are all of my experiences with Mort, but that's not the end of the story. After high school, my friends and I mostly fricked around and hung out, and a few times Mort was brought up. One of my friends, who I'll call O, told me about an interaction he had with Mort. Now, O was admittedly a hypocrite and kind of a neckbeard himself, but unlike most neckbeards, O was actually extremely intelligent. He wasn't bullied, and he honestly had the energy of a bully himself. One year in high school, it was Halloween, and Mort had come in dressed as Bilbo Baggins. O is a bit of a bully, like I said, and he loves to mess with people. He walked up to Mort and said, "Who are you supposed to be?" Mort scoffed and replied telling him he was dressed as Bilbo. I'm not saying that. I don't remember how O set up the punchline, but O essentially called him Dildo Froggins. Mort huffed and puffed, and he spun around and used his hand to swoosh his cape in the air. In doing this, his cape got stuck on a desk, I think. I don't remember what O said it got caught on, if I'm being honest. O proceeded to laugh at him, and as he pulled and tugged on his cape, when he finally got it loose, he fell over on his back. He struggled to get up. When he did, he sprinted out of the classroom. Speaking of sprinting, something I and everyone else in the school has seen him do is sprint down the hallways on his way to every class. Now, this wasn't a regular sprint. It wasn't really a Naruto run either. However, it was equally as embarrassing. When he sprinted, he'd bend his arms in a right angle and would swing his arms side to side. As I said before, Mort was a very heavy lad, so even though he was sprinting, he was never really running that fast, and if you looked at his face, you could see him huffing and puffing and gasping for air. Those are all the things I remember about Mort. I have no idea what he's up to now. A few things more to add though is that Mort was very condescending. He often talked as if he was above everyone else. He clearly believed he had superior intelligence. However, the ironic thing is that he had terrible grades. Last piece of info I have, I never saw Mort during my senior year of high school, but according to O, Mort was starting to develop a bald spot, and he's only 18 years old. Our last story comes to us from username Zombie Pizza Chef. Gotta love neckbeards. So this happened to be about 2 weeks ago. My state district is finally lightening up on social distancing and the overall stay-at-home order. Yay, wow, that's a typo. So anyway, I love to get my nails done, which, believe it or not, makes it easier to play certain video games. I was treating myself to some acrylic nails and pedicures after the stress of quarantine and school ending. My preferred nail salon is right next to a Gamestop, and I enjoy their little mystery bags and cool gaming gear even though I'm a PC gamer only. This particular Gamestop was doing some kind of letting 2 to 3 people in at a time for game returns or other shopping. After my appointment, I decided to walk over and read the signs on the doors to see if they were having a sale on anything interesting. That's when I see him, a 20-something-year-old man staring me down. Now, he is quite overweight and not very tall. Think about 5'8", I'm 5'7". He was wearing Naruto shorts, I think they were actually swimming trunks, and some other anime shirt with, yes you guessed it, a neckbeard. What really got me is how long his beard was. Like, his beard went outwards and was a good 4 inches long, which was strange, so I kinda stared back. Now, I admittedly am not unattractive, but I am also not neckbeard bait at all, so what I think grabbed his attention was my Queen shirt or my Endor Star Wars purse, as well as I looking younger than I am at the times. As I turn to leave, I notice he starts moving towards me. The conversation goes as followed. "Oh, I see you like Star Wars." "Oh yeah, I love the originals and the Clone Wars." I try to turn and leave again, and this creep grabs my hand, so I turn back stunned and about to kick this grown man. "Well, now you have to give me your Instagram." Why in the frick would I do that? At this point, I'm mad and his hand was sticky. Ew. "So we can talk more." "No, thank you." I turn and walk away, just bewildered to walk to my car, and he follows. "Well, now I can see why you're single, treating a gentleman with disrespect like that." I'm usually very aggressive and confrontational, but I had a really relaxing spa visit and I didn't want to ruin my day. I walked to my car silently. "Can I at least get your name? I want to get to know you and see if you have an interest in going out sometime." "Yeah, not gonna happen." "Well, why not? I'm a nice guy." "Well, for one, I'm 17, and 2, I have a boyfriend. Plus, I don't even know you." At this point, I half jog, half speed walk away to my car, get in, and lock my doors. I see him standing about 20 feet away, glaring. My aggressive side comes back, and I flip him off and drove away. Not the most interesting story, but another one of the few I have. My question for anyone reading, should I have called the cops or told an adult? I told my mom, but I mean more like GameStop staff or something. I don't know. I'm now afraid to go back to that salon because I don't want to see this guy again. Edit, wow, was not aware these stories would be too popular, but I have a ton more where they came from, and thanks for the support. I hated every minute, but being able to share them here almost makes me look back and laugh. Alrighty, and with that, that's going to have to be it with the video. If you would like to be absolutely amazing and supportive, be sure to power slam the like button, comment down below what you liked about the video, and if you have not already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye.